Great honor. Thanks for being here. Hope you're going to enjoy the performance. If you were fortunate enough to be with us up in New York a couple weeks ago, which feels like it was like 2 years ago now, but it was just 2 weeks ago, both of the ensembles that you're going to hear are going to provide encores of their Carnegie performance. The first group, we have a program or a QR code that you can see the titles. And I'll talk briefly between the selections to give you a little bit of a heads up. But on the stage right now is the Barker Trail Symphonic Band. We have a piece of the Alumni group also composed by Randall Standridge. This next one is called Sleep My Child. Larry Clark is the composer. Larry Clark, we'll hear some more Larry Clark later with the Wind Symphony. The piece is important to Larry and to me both. It was written for a friend of ours, a band director, somebody that I marched in the drum corps with back in the 1980s. Kevin Fry was his name, and he very unexpectedly passed away right around the holidays. Kevin was Jewish, and so you'll hear a lot of a very Hebrew, sad, but reflective folk song. This is Sleep My Child. Thank you. This next one is called A Walk in the Morning Sun. Pierre LaPlante grew up in the Midwest, like me. And if you're older like me, you'll hear a lot of Leroy Anderson, who wrote a lot of Americana type stuff and lots of cutesy little pieces for radio and for television in the 50s, 60s. You'll see a lot of that sort of Americana, just sort of easy walk in the morning sun, sort of pleasantness. This is Pierre LaPlante, A Walk in the Morning Sun. Kodama is the name of the next chart. Kodama is a Japanese word meaning tree spirits. So there's a lot of different interpretations. But in the Japanese culture, when you are in the woods, if you speak loudly, there's echoes that come back. The faith or the belief is that it's the tree spirits are speaking back to you. I chose this one for our Carnegie performance because it gives percussion a chance to do some things. All of them get to be involved, so you hear rain sticking, you hear temple blocks, and other neat little accessories that'll make this piece kind of put on. They were so musical at MPA and really were so mature at Carnegie. And it's been a crazy 2 weeks because we didn't play this day because it was a senior skip day, and then everybody was sick, and then everybody was sick and playing senior skip days and testing and all the other things that make this part of the year oh so fun from an education standpoint. But they've been really focused for the whole year, and I really appreciate the work they have done, and the future is really continuing to be bright at Watertown High School. Our last number for this is called Cobra Tango. You'll sort of hear that slithery snake sort of thing. And then we'll have about a 10-15 minute intermission where we'll be getting the next group on stage. So as promised, we'll take a little bit of a break here. Symphony is going to get on stage, so give us 15 minutes. We'll let you know.